Hello there everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. This is a video about the Wheel of Fortune, or the wheel in the tarot deck, and the different meanings of the wheel when it comes in upright and also when it comes in reverse. So we will start off by looking at a Rider-Waite card and talking about that, and then we're going to move on to a few different cards that I happen to have on my table. I'm a big believer in having multiple tarot decks, especially if you're reading for other people, because each tarot deck has its own personality, its own flavor, its own way of delivering a message. Sometimes cards will even have completely different messages from deck to deck, and so it's good to be able to pick up whichever deck wants to speak to whoever is sitting for you, or whoever your querent is. So I like to look at a lot of different ones and give you some ideas about some of the things that I've seen so far in my very short tarot career. I've only been reading for 8 years now, so that's not really very long actually. But let's take a peek. We've got the Wheel of Fortune showing up, and so this is the Wheel of Fortune in the Rider-Waite. And this is a card that does talk about, time changes things, and there is a rhythm to life. Things expand and then they contract. What goes up must come down. This is basically what the Wheel of Fortune is all about. To be honest with you, I'm not really sure what the symbols are on the wheel here. Maybe somebody out there knows that and can stick that in the comments. But we have in each of the four corners, we have different beings sort of depicting some of the different elements of the cards. So there's one for air, earth, water, and fire all around here. So I know that the snake on the side there, the snake is talks about transformation. I'm not sure what some of these others actually mean. As far as looking at literal meanings or symbology of this card. To be honest with you, believe it or not, this deck is not anything that I've ever actually been drawn to choose. I actually just got this to make these videos because this is what everybody seems to have as their go-to. It's the industry standard. To be honest, it's actually never drawn me in. So I haven't put a lot of energy into looking up all the arcane meanings of the symbolism of this deck because of that. Now, if you're super into it, you probably know a lot more than I do about the meanings of this, or you will shortly if you don't already. But basically, this card just means that the Wheel of Fortune is changing. Fates are changing. So where you may have been having a more difficult time or a hard time with something, or you were feeling blocked or stuck in a particular situation, when this card comes up in a reading about that, this means that things are fixing to get much more smooth, things are fixing to just roll better, roll more easily. Things are fixing to happen in a way that is not as frustrating as before, and the blockages that you had are getting ready to be removed. Okay, so the next deck we're checking this out in is the Druid Craft Tarot, and here we see the woman drawing the wheel in the sand below her, in the ground below her. Now, whenever you're doing ceremony, you want to have a wheel of protection around you, or a circle of protection around you. Some people even will, when they draw their circle of protection, will ask the ancestors to come and to keep that circle safe as somebody does spiritual work. So this has a lot of esoteric meaning whenever we see this, having to do with different ceremonies that you can do that are more along the pagan line. Probably not something you're going to see in the Catholic Church, but more of the pagan world type of ceremonies. Still has the same meaning, but also can have that flavor of protection, as well as the wheel turning in your favor now. There's this also this element of protection besides things going more smoothly. The protection is sort of the explanation of why things would be going more smoothly there. All right, so next thing we're looking at is the Wheel of Fortune in the Gilded Tarot. And I don't know if you can tell this, it's a little more towards the center of the wheel, but this has the zodiac on it as well. And I think this is interesting that that's a depiction, because so much of what happens in our lives, so much of the energies that we're dealing with do have to do with those energies of the zodiac and astrology. And if we want to know if we're going to be lucky in something or unfortunate in something, we can usually figure that out by looking at the stars. So I really like the idea that this is depicted on this card. It could even be something that would say check your astrology on this too for confirmation whenever this card would happen to come up in this particular deck. But Wheel of Fortune once again talks about your fortune is getting ready to change in a favorable direction when it comes in upright like this. Okay. Now, la da 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 da, Chrysalis Tarot. Wheel of Fortune here, the wagon wheel up against the old tree. Very much nature, very much grounding. We've also got this miniature depiction of a person in front of a cauldron. I don't think that's really a person. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a voodoo doll or what it's actually supposed to be honest with you. I should actually go back and read that book. It's been sitting on my table a long time and I haven't read it through it. But you can see that this woman seems like she's celebrating, and obviously with the steam that's coming off of the cauldron, whatever it is that she's making, she has an abundance, she has plenty. So with this Wheel of Fortune, once again, things are going well. Things are turning into a place where there is abundance and where there's joy and there's happiness. Now, So this is the Wheel of Fortune in the Russian Tarot of St. Petersburg. I'm actually looking at these cards closer than what I probably normally would as I'm talking about them to you. So you can see we've got 4 angels around the edges of that wheel. And then we've got the snake on the bottom. And we have what really looks to me like one of the flying monkeys out of the Wizard of Oz with the sword on the top. I'm not sure how much detail you can see there. But to me, the snake is actually a good thing. It talks about transformation and change because the snake molts. The snake loses its skin and creates a whole new skin. So that to me talks about transformation, Plutonian type energy. And then I think that for me, the flying monkey with the sword, which I'm sure is not the official name for this, is going to be something that has to do with cutting things off, and this would have to do more with energy that is cutting out those things that are no longer needed. And so to me, I think that these two characters work really well together. If you're cutting out those things that aren't needed and becoming more efficient and leaving room for those things that are needed and those good things in your life, that allows you to make those transformations that help you move forward in a positive direction. And that's exactly what the Wheel of Fortune talks about. It talks about a little extra in synchronicities and luck as we move forward and things working out well. Let's see, which one do I want to do next? I think I'm going to save my favorite for last, my favorite version. Okay, so here we have Fortune's Wheel in the Good Tarot. This is a very glossy card. It's kind of hard to keep the glare off, but I'm trying to. If you can see there, it's almost like you've got a person looking in a mirror here inside the tarot, or maybe it's a perfume bottle with a topper and it has a reflective surface. Either way, you've got somebody looking into a reflective surface here. And so this is basically the idea of having a heads up about things. And when we have a heads up about things, we can, of course, always make the outcome better. So a little bit different flavor for that Wheel of Fortune there. And then let's see, we're going to do the Tarot of the Golden Wheel next, this Wheel of Fortune. And I think this is a little bit more of the traditional version of the Wheel of Fortune that I had heard about before, in that there is the very fortunate woman and then there's the unfortunate woman, both depicted together in this card. And so because we've got both of these, this talks about, You know, things are changing, seasons are changing. We're coming into a time of expansion with the Wheel of Fortune coming in upright there. Excuse me a moment. Sorry about that interruption. So let's look at our next Wheel of Fortune card. This is from my Medicine Woman Tarot deck. And this is called Harvest, not just Wheel of Fortune, it's called Harvest. And of course you can see the cornucopia there, and it looks like, I think that's corn stalks all together, you know, tied in together in the back. So, you know, it just talks about abundance and, you know, once again, things going very well, having that abundance show up in your life. So that's a really nice thing to see. When it comes in right side up, you know, it does talk about things going your way. And then this is my favorite Wheel of Fortune card. Of course, this is the Wheel of Fortune that I learned about originally. Now we've got the Wheel of Fortune that is actually on the shirt, that is on the weaver's loom there, talking about that we really create our own fortune, that we make our own fortune, and that it talks about some of the principles about creating our own destiny, about, you know, with all of that water, it talks about the emotions. We use our emotions to create our own destiny. With the acorn here, this talks about wisdom, that we use the wisdom to create that as well. With the stones here hanging off the loom, talks about being grounded. With these herons or pelicans or whatever this is, type of bird in here, that grouping of three, does talk about that the people that we spend time with are the people who help us to influence our destiny in a way that is similar to theirs. So we always want to be very wise about the people that we spend time with, because we want a destiny similar to the people that we spend time with. And if we're spending time with people who we don't want a destiny like that, it may be time to start looking at different friends. And then also we've got the sun and the moon in both corners, kind of symbolizing the whole idea of, you know, contraction and expansion, fall, summer, spring, winter, the seasons, you know, all of the cycles, night and day, all of those cycles. And you can see even all of the seasons represented on this card as well. So this really talks about cycles and how things change. Nothing is permanent. Things are always moving in a particular rhythm as long as we are in this universe. You know, there is the law of rhythm that is at work here. So I really like that because it does talk about some of the things that it takes to be successful. It kind of talks about being successful as something that is not as karmic as some of the other cards depict, as more something that we actually, we forge our own fortune. So let's look at the Wheels of Fortune in reverse. And so Wheels of Fortune in reverse just basically mean that things are turning rougher for us. So where things may have been working more smoothly, now things are going to be a little bit more rough. Whatever we're trying to accomplish may feel like we're walking through a deep mud hole with boots that keep coming off and getting stuck in the mud while we're trying to walk forward. So just things not moving as smoothly. It doesn't mean necessarily calamity. Generally, it doesn't mean calamity. It just means we're having to put out much more effort to get the same results as what we would have before. This one with the Wheel of Fortune in reverse may mean that, you know, there's less protection around us as far as spiritual protection. This also talks to me about whatever seeds that we've planted come back to us. And so this can be about receiving karma where we've done things that probably were not the best things we could have done, that we may be receiving back the result of those seeds that we've planted. And that could be on any of these cards, but it really jumps out to me with that card out of the Druid Craft Tarot. Excuse me. Wheel of Fortune in reverse here. To me, this would just talk about, you know, check your chart. You may have some squares or some oppositions going on, and you want to see how long are those going to last, And you want to see if you can find some kind of remedies for those. So like I said, this really has a strong astrological feel to me, but definitely, you know, even astrology, everything that comes up in astrology is all a cycle. It's all changing. The planets are all moving, indicating different cycles all the time. Wheel of Fortune, once again, now we have our lady who's probably a doll dancing in front of the cauldron, but now she's upside down. So to me, dancing when you're hanging upside down doesn't seem like as much fun. Things are a little bit rougher. Maybe she's not dancing. Maybe she's moping or sulking now. Maybe she's just working her tail off to make things happen. And maybe whatever is making that cauldron hot, maybe that fire has gone out. You know, maybe there's a lot less energy moving forward when there needs to be a lot more energy put out than what you would usually need. Wheel of Fortune in reverse here does talk to me more about the idea of that it's not time to grow and expand. At this point, it's time to cut away those things that are extraneous, those things that are not beneficial. So pruning, you know, for those of you who are familiar with pruning back bushes or pruning back trees or even grapevines, you know, you prune back, even flowers, you prune back so that that plant can really focus on new growth. And that new growth is the stronger, has the fresher, has the better on it once it comes in. And so this talks about that time of pruning, that time of, you know, pruning in your life, getting rid of those things that are not as healthy as they could be anymore, to make room to bring in those other things that would be better. So, yeah, things are a little bit rougher moving forward. It is a time of cutting back, of pruning, of maybe things are coming, you know, becoming less contracting in your life, but it allows for other things to expand. So still following that rhythm and still very productive. I really think Wheel of Fortune in reverse is very productive. We may not enjoy it so much, but it does produce good results because we expand in new ways where we're contracting in old ways. Wheel of Fortune here, to me, like I said, whenever I see this person that is actually looking into the reflective surface, to me, when this comes in reverse, this kind of tells me that, you know, maybe they're not getting such a good heads up. Maybe they aren't seeing the future as well, and they're having to sort of play it by ear. Maybe intuition is not serving them right now. It may be blocked a little bit. And so once again, some kind of blockage just would be the thing that would come to me probably first if I was looking at this card, and that blockage causing the Wheel of Fortune to go in a different direction or in a more rougher to handle direction. Okay. Now, Wheel of Fortune in reverse here. To me, these are these two ladies on their head. The wheel is definitely turning, but it's not turning in a direction that's doing anybody any good here. This is turning in a direction that is just making things rougher on everybody. And then Medicine Wheel Tarot, that Harvest card, but it's in reverse. To me, it almost looks like all of the bounty is being sucked into one pivotal point and just away, down, a chute and gone, down the drain. So to me, in this deck, this would say loss to me, coming in reverse. Now, normally I don't see a Wheel of Fortune in reverse as loss. I just see it as struggling, you know, like running twice as fast to get half as far, but I don't see it as loss. I just see it as we have to put out more energy to make things happen. This particular deck, if this was to come up in a reading, I would see that as actually loss. Something is lost here. Okay. Now, some type of abundance. Wheel of Fortune in reverse here. Basically just saying that the wheel is now turning into winter time, basically turning into that time where the leaves are gone and the trees are sleeping and everything is quiet, maybe even covered with the snow, Everything is taking some time for more or less rest and self-care and rejuvenation. And so that's what I see with the Wheel of Fortune in reverse here for this particular deck. Okay. Well, thank you guys for sticking with me for all those explanations. I do appreciate it. Thank you also to those of you ordering private readings and private Reiki sessions. I hope that these videos are beneficial to you. Thank you for thumbs ups and for sharing these with others who may enjoy them as well. Everybody have a great evening.